Namaste. Welcome to the Happy Jack Yoga Podcast. I'm Happy Jack, live from Kashi Lake, Ontario, Canada. And I'm here live with
Happy Hanna, and I am in Bracebridge, Ontario, Canada.
amazing. We actually just got off a call. We just had a call with our dear friend Lauri, who many of you here know. Yule knows, Angie knows, Sarah and George know, and others as well, who joined us in India. And he's putting together, he's been with us to Mallorca, Spain, Canada multiple times, Finland multiple times, India multiple times, Mexico, probably forgetting places. But he comes, he's not only a dear friend, but a master at photography and videography. And so he's captured some incredible content from our time together a couple of months ago at the Govardhan Eco Village. And, we saw the first draft of the video he put together. And many, all of you who are here, Yulet, you're in it. Angie, you're in it. Sarah and George, you're in it. And of course, many other yogis. So it's going to be, really beautiful to be able to share the experience. And what I love is that it's not actually Hanna and I. We're not in it. We're not in it talking wise. It's really just like hearing from the students their experience of being in Mother India. And can't wait to be another week or two before we reveal that. But stay tuned. What do you think, Hanna?
Yeah, it was a beautiful meeting. It's beautiful to see everyone and beautiful to see India. Laurie really, he is incredibly good at expressing what we want to express for us. So it's almost like you said, it's almost like a documentary, a 7 minute long documentary of a masterpiece. Laurie would get up at weirdest hours and go and uh, take photos and videos of the eco village. And while we were busy doing life, doing yoga, meditating, and being with each other, he was capturing it all, and he was never intrusive. And now we get to see the result of his work, and I'm really excited for all of you to see it. It's incredibly beautiful. And with bearing in mind that Lauri also said it's really difficult to kind of squeeze that whole incredible experience because it's a pilgrimage to a sacred space. How do you put that into a tiny little square? And he succeeded. So I'm really excited for this video to come out. There's going to be many videos, but the main one where we show the eco village and what it does with you and for you
Yeah.
is going to be really beautiful.
In a sense, it's almost like a little mini documentary. That's not the right term, but just the fact it's like 7 minutes long. So it's not your typical 30-second, 90-second promo video. It's like this is hearing from the students, hearing from the hearts and souls of the pilgrims who came. And so it's for those who are, want to hear the transformations and hear the depths of what the experience was. So stay tuned. We're very excited.
Yeah, it's not a sales pitch. And also, I think it's beautiful for those who can't go because you get to see what it's like. So
Yeah.
it's really beautiful.
Yes, exactly. And what else? We just come back from a big road trip, impromptu, spontaneous. Almost got to send an apology to our friend Sue. We weren't in your area, but we were close. Hun and I and my mom hopped in a car yesterday and drove to Sudbury, and I know that's like in your neck of the woods, but we weren't able to make it to Sturgeon Falls. I see your face. Um, but it was basically, my mom is from Finland, Hanna is from Finland. That's their heritage, and this musician who is renowned in the like kind of gospel communities in Finland was performing in little town of Sudbury, which is, well, it was 3 hours. So we drove 3 hours each way to go to this, but it meant a lot for my mom, and it was actually really special for you as well, Hanna. Your heritage, And even for me, who couldn't understand most of it because it was like exclusively in Finnish, it was beautiful music, and I could just tell that the musician, the pastor who was there, part of the program, like so charismatic, so heart centered, so present, and funny. It's like, for us as yoga teachers, it was such a great reminder for me. I was thinking about, we hear in communication that communication is 55% body language, 38% tone, and 7%, the words, the content. And it was so true. Even though of course I picked up the odd word here and there, but I wasn't able to follow everything. But the body language and the tone, it came across. And so that was a really nice experience. Glad we had that yesterday, Hanna.
Yeah, it's really weird to come from a country with a very special language and grow up taking it all for granted, and then finding yourself really far away from that land and landing almost, that was like a retreat center for older Finns.
Yeah.
So this place where the concert was organized is, I guess it would be like a community and a retirement home for Finnish people who have lived in that area. So there's a heritage of Finns going there as miners, working in the mining field, I guess. What's the word for that?
Industry.
Mining industry. And so everyone kind of looked like Finns. We even stopped in a bakery that had Finnish food and kind of funny Finnish things on the way there. And it's kind of weird to be a Finn and then learn what you love about your culture and what you always took for granted. And then in a way, there's nostalgia towards that. Like we do miss home when you are that far away for that long. And I've only been here for 8 years, and I never really thought about my culture that much before I moved to North America, where I feel like because there's many cultures, it's also really beautiful because there's openness and it's a melting pot. But then you notice what you miss about your own culture. So being in this kind of retreat center with the buildings looking like Finland and Finnish words like in the, like park here or go this way for this hall, it was like a little bit like a slice of Finland in the middle of nowhere. And all the people looked like Finns. And then the event was all in Finnish, which is a strange language if you don't speak it. But when you speak it, it's also very nostalgic. Like that was my childhood language. When I was 10, I switched to Swedish ish because we moved to a part of Finland where everything happens in Swedish, and I did my schools in Swedish, which is a completely different language and also culture, even though it's also in Finland. So it was really beautiful and fun, and everyone was way older than us, more like your mom's age. But yeah, there was something beautiful about that,
Yeah.
touching, I would say.
Yeah, and that's what I want to ask. I'll share first, but I'd love to hear kind of your favorite moment
Mm.
of the experience. And for me, because it was in addition to, it was a musical experience, but it was gospel. It was
Like
religious,
Christian
spiritual,
music.
Christian music, and but they made it really interactive. And so, halfway through the program, the priest or the minister who was also traveling with this famous musician, he came up and he did a sermon which was fun and engaging, and then he did an interactive prayer where we partnered everybody up, and this was so beautiful because it's like, this is the kind of things we do with Happy Jack Yoga, not prayer, but different sharing exercises. And so we all got with a partner and had this prayer experience, and I partnered with my mom, and so I think you partnered with another Finnish lady, and what we did is, we took turns. You place your hand on the shoulder of the other person. You ask for permission, and then place your hand on the shoulder of your partner, and then there's this prayer, and he says this prayer, and then switch. And so then my mom put her hand on my shoulder, and when I had my hand on my mom's shoulder, I was just bawling my eyes out. I couldn't stop crying. It was a beautiful experience. It was just like an emotional flood of all of these memories from when I was a child, and like everything that my mom has done for me over the years, everything she still does, and just like it was just this flood of memories and emotions and moments. And it makes me think, it's like, I mean, my mom's downstairs right now. I see her every day. I see her dozens of times every day, and but we don't always take a moment to meaningfully connect. And so to have this moment where we actually, eyes closed, physical connection, hand on the shoulder, and and just knowing that this is something that was really meaningful for her. Like it was, I mean, that's why we ended up there. She learned about this last minute, like 24 hours in advance, and she's like, I'm going. And she was committed to going by herself, and we're like, come on, you're not, it's a snowstorm. It was literally a snowstorm most of the drive. You're not going to do this 6-hour drive by yourself. So it was just so nice to be able to support her and having the experience. And then, because it's so small, and I guess the emotional flood was thinking about all of the things that she has done for me. So that was, of course, and I did my best to hide it and not let her see me crying in that way. Not that that would be a problem, but I don't know. It was so emotional and beautiful, and grateful for that experience.
It's like when I hear you say that, I start crying already because something about like that was your kind of important moment or big moment in this 2-hour experience we had, right? 2 or 3 hours we were there. And I start crying because now I remember my own experience. Not that I forgot it, obviously, but I had a strong experience in that. And I often do when many people come together to pray or sing, then it's almost like I can't control it. I start crying like, and I now to describe with to all of you my experience, just so we can so you understand what I mean. So we sit down in this hall that looks like an 80s building in a hall. Like it wasn't a church, it wasn't majestic, it wasn't in the nature, it was just a hall with a guy in his 60s and a guitar, and then all the grandmas and grandpas and me, Jack's mom, and Jack, and nobody else in the front row.
Front row center, yeah, right.
Right in front of the guy. But then they give us these, like in church, they have these little books where all the songs are written.
Hymn book, yeah.
Yeah. And then we open it. Of course, it's in Finnish, and they tell us which number. And then the guy starts playing the guitar, and all of these people behind us and the energy in the room just took completely over myself, and I could not stop crying. And I tried to kind of not like cry too hard or take, because then we're in the front row, so I see the guy see me, like he's playing. I guess he's a religious person, so I'm sure he's used to it. But then I'm sitting next to you guys, and there's all of the people's love or devotion or whatever the Holy Spirit is in those kind of settings that takes completely over me. And I can't stop crying, and the crying gets like I didn't have any, I was not prepared. I didn't think about it. And then I didn't have any tissues, so I just kind of try to wipe my face, and it's like the kind of crying that I couldn't control. So that's why it was also, I was self-conscious. I didn't want to embarrass everyone, and my shoulders start shaking, and I'm like completely just not able to withhold. And And it's not like I'm thinking about anything. It's not like I'm grieving, or it's not like I'm having visions. It's not like I'm thinking like, oh my God, anything. It's just an incredibly powerful spiritual experience that is also beautiful, but it takes a lot of energy. Like my body gets kind of squeezed. And I don't want to take the attention away from what's actually happening in the room. So it's hard to be in my body when this happens, and it happens easily in group settings like that. And then the song goes away. I'm trying to like, you know, behave. And then the next song, and it happens again. And then at some point, I managed during this event to stop crying, because then there's interaction like Jack was talking about, the praying where they lead you through a prayer experience, which is also really beautiful. And I was thinking about this, like what actually happens with me when I cry like that. And we talked about it in the car, and it was really beautiful. Jack's mom in the back seat, she said, like, when I described it, I said, I'm not thinking about anything. It's not like I'm grieving or that I'm having any spiritual insights, but it just takes over me. And then she said, it's the Holy Spirit. And I thought that was really beautiful and probably true, because there's such power that is so otherworldly when many people come together with their worries and their hearts in their hands to, I don't know, like kind of humbly bring their love together to something that is bigger than our nervous system and our rational mind. I guess that would be the definition of spirituality. And I really enjoyed this because then also there were three guys in this event, one that was playing the guitar, one that was like a minister or a pastor, and one other minister pastor. And they all told really fun jokes and stories. And one of them has written a book about the type of praying that we did together later. And that was really nice. I was able to read that on the way home because it kind of describes what they did. And I thought that was so beautiful because he's wanting to bring people together versus in church, or in these situations we're like, okay, alone, or we might not always share the practice with an actual other person. And if anyone who's ever done anything happy jack yoga, that's what we're trying to facilitate, people coming together and not just staying in their bubbles. And the way we were praying, like when you were sharing, Jack, about when you were praying with your mom, it's based on Jesus's teachings, where Jesus would put his hand on people and pray for them. And that's what we did in the group. And when you did that with your mom, it sounds like your nervous system also felt something that is difficult to define with our rational minds, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's nice to hear your experience as well. And there's definitely for sure there's got to be similarities. There's in our experiences, and in another way, you mentioned you weren't thinking of anything, like kind of nothing, happened. There was no thought you had that really triggered it. Like it was almost like uh, uncontrollable. It just happened.
Yeah, like the energy in the room,
Yeah.
mm,
And for myself, I was somehow focused on it was more like focused on gratitude. Like I was thinking of all of these moments, and but it just felt very very healing and very like beautiful, and just it kind of in those, what I think is really nice, like whether when we're singing together, or we're doing a practice together, or feeling some strong emotion like that, in those moments, I'm not thinking about my to-do list, or I'm not thinking about, little stresses or anxieties or things that overwhelm me, or whatever, things that many of us are navigating in life with responsibilities. but just there's like a presence. There's and in the presence, and in the same way, I guess if I'm thinking about the past memories, like then I'm not exactly fully always in the present moment, but it's like there's like a memory and then just like an emotional flood. The presence is like when my hand is on my mom's shoulder and she's just like, kind of like so soft and little old lady, becoming a little old lady. And,
And
and
so full of love,
yeah,
so kind.
yeah.
And you can feel it. And I love that you use the word presence because that's what I feel like is the key word here, like the presence that you can feel in those sacred moments. And the fact that you were available to the present moment to me is really moving because I know that most of us are always planning ahead or looking back, or we think that's what life is all about, is like interventions, like what do I do next and what's the right move and how do I get what I want, and um how do I keep myself safe and what's the next, like it's this, the mind is really good at doing that, but then our nervous system and our heart can be present in moments like this where we don't, it's all like an overwhelming sense of safety. And you mentioned the word gratitude, and I was trying to like pinpoint like what did I feel in this moment of tears of truth. And I thought gratitude for sure, and the presence of something greater than ourselves. And last night I wanted to digest this experience because I was emotionally quite tired, and I went for a walk, and it was so beautiful outside. It's full of snow, but it's dark, and I was listening to some beautiful music, and then I sat down to journal at my little journaling altar over in my bedroom, and I thought about like how would I define such a heart opening experience that I didn't initiate or ask for or expect or even really understand. And the words that came to my mind were presence, and then also remember how Sadhviji was, she had an her spiritual awakening was when she went to India on a backpacking tour. She was not into spirituality. She just went to India because she wanted to eat vegetarian food. And back then, it wasn't easy to find vegetarian food as a tourist anywhere in the world. And the moment she put her feet in the Mother Ganga, she had what sounds like a cathartic experience where she was crying and she could not anticipate this. Unlike me, she had lots of visions of goddesses and insights. And that is like the closest that I've ever heard as a description of what this is. And I was thinking that, our cultures maybe don't always have a lot of language for our spiritual life, perhaps. And in yogic traditions, maybe we have mapped a little bit more about our subtle body and our connection to the divine. And I also thought about how the different traditions to me are like different languages. And the moment, for instance, Christianity becomes like exclusive, like this is the only right language, then it doesn't feel right for me. It's because I speak 7 languages. If somebody told me I can only speak Finnish, things wouldn't flow so well, because then that would mean I would only have to live in a place where everyone understands it or not be understood by people. If I go and buy my groceries in Bracebridge in Finnish, I would probably be able to do it because now you don't need the help of anyone. You know how you have those cashiers where you just do your own groceries yourself and you tap with your phone, and you can interact in this world today without speaking anything to anyone. But it would restrict my life experience. I wouldn't be able to connect with the locals if I didn't speak the language that we can mutually understand. And it's like I was thinking like spirituality or our sense of what we think is God or something bigger than ourselves, then in some other traditions there's different descriptions of it and different ways to approach it and practice it and be with the divine. And I'm thinking it's still the same thing. It's the divine, like kind of like water. It can become snow or ice cubes, or it can flow in oceans, but it's always water, no matter if I say it in Finnish or Chinese. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
That
for
I'm
sure.
thinking, right? And guess what, Jack? We talked about this on our team day. You said something that I also wrote down in my journal that really like blew my mind.
Mm.
Just to bring this whole conversation to hopefully a kind of grounded place. You said we were discussing on our team day who should be on the Bhakti Yoga Conference speaker list, who should we invite, and who is likely to come, and who might not come, and we were going through the our website that we're working on to make it pretty and make it clear and who's gonna say, in which order, and then we were like contemplating it. Will so and so come if we invite them? And then at some point you said, well, you know what, Hannah, it doesn't really matter because we're all on the same team. And I was like, yeah, that is so beautiful. We're all on the same team.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean? That we're all spiritual being having a spiritual beings having a human experience in this body in this moment with our karmas, with our hearts that have been broken by life and healed by the divine, probably, and by each other. And
Yeah.
that we're all looking for that presence with a big P and trying to access it to the best of our ability, depending on the language we speak or that we can understand, as our way to connect with a bigger picture that goes way beyond this lifetime and this week and this quarter of the year and so forth. So I really loved how that experience we had was, you know, maybe the Christian access to God, that the way these guys would connect with God. And it created such a beautiful experience for us all without any expectation or without any, you know, any, I don't know, it just felt so pure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you shared a lot. I mean, so with regard to the other day when we met and kind of had that idea of we're all on the same team, is because I don't know if anybody else can relate, but sometimes you might be making a request for somebody or inviting somebody to something, and we're inviting a lot of really special guests to this conference.
And we're like trying to curate an experience. Kind of like
Yeah.
if you were curating an art show, you would decide like, oh, let's put Picasso here and my nephew's drawing over here. What's the theme of the art show, and does it fit together, and what is the message of this art show? And now in the Bhakti Yoga Conference, that's what I hear you are curating with the theme and who is going to be invited. So that's what
Yeah.
we were working on.
Yeah. And so in the idea of like, some of these guests we may invite and they may not accept the invitation. They may not respond. And that's, that happens. It happens with all of us if we're applying for a gig to teach yoga somewhere, we're asking somebody out on a date, where whatever it is, right? There's like that either fear of rejection or fear of not being enough, those kind of limiting beliefs that tend to be a part of this human psyche, this human experience. And then that's where it kind of came. It's like, well, you know what? We're going to invite these people, these guests who we think would be fit really well with the vision for this conference. And whether they come or not, like it's like, yeah, we're all on the same team. So why not? Like that's kind of why not invite them? We're all on the same team here. We all have the same vision to like spread, to uplift, to create connection, to connect people to something bigger than ourselves. And so if they don't accept, well, we don't accept everything either, right? I mean, they have responsibilities, children, other commitments, and so it's not a personal thing,
Mm.
but just this idea of like, yeah, we're on the same team, with all of these, and that goes with everybody in this community. Like we're in this together, and
Yeah,
yeah,
I love that. Like, what would our worlds look like if this was true, that we're all on the same team?
it would be. Well, I think that's something that is the essence of yoga, right? Is like connection and to yoke, to unite. And so to really remember that. That's why we associate with yogis. That's why we read the yogic texts. That's why we do the daily sadhana, the daily practices. It's all to help us remember, to have the experience, and then to help us remember. And all we can do is preach through our way of being, right? Not preach through shaking our index finger and telling people what to do. We know that doesn't work, but just through our way of being. And it's beautiful to see how different cultures, different traditions present it and can create these unifying experiences. And that's what we had yesterday with this musical adventure. And I guess for me, something that this is not to like acknowledge myself, but just to notice in myself, and you can testament to this because you know me well, right? Where my default certainly used to be like, well, what like logically makes the most sense? What is the best use of my time? What is most productive? And that's how I had been wired. And so to do there was an 11-hour round trip yesterday, right? We left at 9:30 in the morning and got back at 8:30 p.m., way past my bedtime. And so there's any number of reasons to like tell my mom, that I just can't do it. But I had like three other calls, so I had to like reschedule calls, reschedule a haircut. I'm gonna get that later today. Um, but the fact that just seeing how important this was for my mom, to connect. She loves the music. She loves the musician, the culture, to connect with her culture, and it was so meaningful for her. This is, it doesn't maybe seem like the biggest, most amazing thing maybe to some who are hearing this, but like for her, this would be one of her highlights of the year. To have that experience, and so to be able to help facilitate that. Something that Tony Robbins has always encouraged us is to create magic moments, right? Magic moments for loved ones, not just doing the expected, but really going above and beyond. And it doesn't mean you have to spend a lot of money. It doesn't mean you have to give a lot of time. But it's like, what can you do that's just like really meaningful for the person, and hearing what it is that they're seeking. So not because if I said, like, I could say to my mom, hey, let's go to a trip to New York City, and I think that, yeah, that'd be nice to go to New York City and spend a weekend with my mom, and that could be nice, and it could happen. That would be quite expensive, and it's not like her heart's not yearning for that. But this road trip, to northern Canada, to a little town, that was so meaningful. And so, coming back to listening, that's been a topic on previous conversations, this listening. And so I kind of knew it's like, even though I got to reschedule my haircut and a few Zoom calls, and have a little bit have this feeling of falling behind on work, it's like that I'm going to be working every day for the rest of my life because I love what I do. But the reality, I'm going to be working putting in effort doing things. Why not give this one day? Give this one day to help create a magic moment for my mom. I was so happy when you were also interested. Like I thought, and again,
I was mostly interested in the Finnish bakery, to be honest. Hey, let's go.
Yeah, and so I don't know, like I guess I share that because these are the types of transformations that slowly happen with yoga. And we've joked before, right, Hanna? You've lived with me for close to a decade, and I've definitely spent years more just self-centered and or like logical, doing what makes sense, being productive, not so spontaneous. And I'm not like trying to be spontaneous now, but there's just like somehow the bhakti and the spiritual practice kind of softens the heart and helps us realize like what really matters most. And to I'll just say one more thing. Like one day our parents will be gone, right? And my like every day you're sitting there, Hanna, for those who don't have a visual, right now Hanna's sitting here knitting on the screen. My mom, I guarantee, if I look out the window there, she's down on the couch knitting. So it's like I see her sitting there knitting day in and day out, and we have little interactions. And if we didn't have that experience, or we kind of said no to these types of meaningful connections, I'd regret that one day, because one day loved ones will be gone. And so I guess it becomes finding a balance of taking care of daily responsibilities and our mission, living our lives, and at the same time, fostering these meaningful connections with loved ones, especially the ones that fed us, raised us, did everything.
Yeah, and I wonder how to balance those things. If we think about it, like your way of being is partly it is because your wiring is to work hard and kind of organize yourself in ways that work for your personality and make you feel good. So it's not wrong that what you do, you mentioned that in the past maybe it was very self-centered and maybe it came across like that, but I would like to think that it's also your way to contribute. Like we are on this team and bring our gifts to the team, and those are your gifts to bring to the team. But it's also really nice that you're able to be present as well to the beauty of listening to your mom, what she really wants, and help her and be part of that versus being so busy in the future with your own um anxieties, because a lot of it is about like control. It feels like that to me, but it might not be true because just that like is your wiring and it contributes in so many ways. So it's not wrong. Do you know what I'm wanting to say? Like, it's beautiful that you can have both now, that you can be present. And then you can go get your hair cut the next day. Like, your hair's not going to disappear, it's going to keep growing. And that's how it's always going to be. And so it's beautiful that you can be present with your mom and not just like because one day she won't be here, also because right now is all we have. If we can't be happy with what is right now, what are the chances we're going to be super happy in the future? Because if it's always depending on the outside world, like I'll be happy when the snow has melted, well then it's going to be too hot suddenly or too humid or whatever. Like it would be so great if we could, like you mentioned, like bhakti has softened your heart and made you available to this moment, to actually really savoring. It's kind of like if we enjoy our meal or we just like inhale it. Because and sometimes we need to inhale to be fast and because we got other things going on, but we have to eat every day, so why not
Mm,
um
mm,
how can we make this meal, this moment more accessible to my nervous system, to my sense of gratitude and purpose?
Yeah. Yeah, you remind me of something. I got a health hack. I don't hack's not a good word, but something a practice that I've started recently and kind of incorporated into my ritual. Because as we just talked about, like I'm if we look at what was it, the Enneagram, I'm the achiever. So I'm definitely like always being busy doing stuff. And what I'm recognizing about myself, in addition to, 8 hours of sleep every night, in addition to, yoga and meditation and these nourishing practices, say in a stretch of 6 or 8 hour workday where I'm on the computer for a lot, I know that I need to step away and have these little pauses. And whether that's a yoga nidra, whether that's a walk in the fresh air out in the nature, whatever it happens to be. And so one of the practices that we have in bhakti yoga is to prepare our food with love, to prepare it with love, and then to offer it to the divine, offer it to something greater than ourselves. So before we just, instead of just like making the food and shoveling it in really quick, which I've been guilty of in the past. So now it's like preparing lunch, which I'll do soon after this podcast, and then I bring it up here to my little altar, my little puja table, and I place it here so that I'm not just rushing right into eating it, but I just let it sit there. I let it, sit there and kind of making it as an offering with love. And then that's when I come down on this side of the room. I got a little rug on this side, and I basically just lay down and I say some prayers, I say some mantras, just kind of going through the sequence that I like to practice. And maybe that's 2 or 3 minutes. But now all of a sudden for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 3 times a day, as I, prepare the food with love and let it sit there, I'm giving myself that 3-minute pause where I lay down with my eyes closed, right? So less sensory things happening and have that nourishing moment. And I feel like it makes a difference, because I was trying to find a way how to fit this in. Like, do I do it every day at 1 p.m.? Do I set an alarm clock on my phone? How do I remember to do it? Do I put up post-it notes? It just wasn't, I didn't have a good system. And so now the system is each time preparing a meal. And it's really helpful to then sit and eat our meal in a more parasympathetic state, right? To get our body into that rest and digest state, by having that little 3-minute prayer meditation pause before sitting to eat. So that's a little practice tip.
A little extreme, like all things happy Jack. I think bringing the food to another room and then laying down to pray over the food is probably not what everybody's going to do, but it's great that you've found a system that works.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe a takeaway for someone who's not doing, maybe they're working and they're eating at work or something, just a sense of gratitude. Like, is that what this practice does for you? Is it like a gratitude practice?
No, it's a practice of calming my nervous system.
Mm.
Yeah.
Before eating.
Yeah, well, so that what I was sharing there, it has multi benefit. So if you want to talk about just the eating, like for example, my trainer Billy Beck, there's 5 things, and I'm probably not going to remember all 5, but he would tell us, before we go to eat, to sit in an upright position, so not slouched over, but to sit upright, and first to close your eyes and take some deep breaths. So really, again, activating your parasympathetic nervous system, focusing on gratitude, being grateful to have this nourishment, basically just having that pause before, engaging in eating. So maybe that's a more accessible way, to be able to just sit, close your eyes, take some deep breaths, feel grateful, bless if that feels appropriate, and then enjoy. But yeah, for me, I guess I was looking for, again, I'm not suggesting this is like going to fit or this works for anybody else, but it's really working for me. like on a high magnitude level, according to my aura ring, my stress, because I can see it all. It's so cool, like seeing the stress levels come down by doing these practices, versus because if I'm just going from like working and then run downstairs to the kitchen, make the food, and then sit down and eat the food, and then come back here and start working, it's almost like if there's not a pause and a pause for some breaths and some gratitude, it's like the quote unquote lunch break is not even like really a break. That's how it has been sometimes for me. So this has been a beautiful experience of while I'm offering the food, to just lay in like a yoga nidra position, eyes closed, saying some prayers, feeling some gratitude, activating parasympathetic nervous system, and then enjoying the food mindfully, versus shoveling it in.
Yeah.
So it's working.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a way to be present for you.
Yeah. It really does cultivates presence. Before I it has such an impact that I'm doing it even more than just with the food. Like say today with our call with Lowry, because we were out late last night with this road trip, so I slept in a little bit longer than normal. Still, prioritized a workout and a few of those different practices, yoga. So it was kind of tight, coming to meet on the call with Lowry right before the podcast. So just making 3 minutes to lay down there and activate parasympathetic nervous system after a workout, after preparing breakfast, these things, I felt I was more present on the Zoom call. So it's finding these little ways to so it feels natural and intentional, and at least in my case devotional, like spiritual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess every tradition encourages some sense of contemplation or practices that quiet our mind a little bit and brings us into the breath, into the heart space. And for some of us, it happens in the mornings and in the evenings, depending also on lifestyle. Like I'm thinking about my life, how little stress my life involves, and I'm so grateful for it. At any time I can go for a walk and breathe in and look at trees and then come back. And I notice when I get worked up that when I feel stress, it feels almost like an invitation, an opportunity to see like, hey, where is it that I'm holding on too tightly, and what is this moment asking of me, and what is my story about it? you know
Yeah. This is the practice of of yoga. Just hearing that reminds me of when I lost 100 pounds. That was a big thing some years back, and when I first did, people were asking like, "What, you must have exercised like a maniac, running on the treadmill, and how the heck did you do it?" And I mean, of course, activity, movement, exercise was part of it, but the biggest impact was nutrition. And the reason I made that shift is that when I got on my yoga mat to do a pose, I could really feel the impact of the meal the night before. So if I got on the yoga mat in the morning, if I ate too much or too late or too heavy or maybe not the right type of food, I could really feel it. And maybe before, without that awareness that yoga and mindfulness and meditation bring, you just you just do the thing, you eat the food, and then you wake up and you start working or working out or whatever it is. So it was, whether it's with our health practice, whether it's with cultivating spiritual health and well-being, presence,
yeah, and like also like an active aligned action towards how you want to feel. it's not to judge ourselves like, oh, I should eat faster or slower or um, more this way or that way. But if we desire to be available to the moment, then it would help us probably to feel at home in our body and then do things that help us feel the way we want to feel or cultivate the things that we find meaningful, right? So I'm thinking like these ways of taking action, making a decision that to go for a walk after food or whatever it is that helps us digest the food. um, all the rhythms that become habits, they help us feel aligned or feel, it depends on all of our like samskaras and personalities, what it is that because some people say that just the patterning, like the way we were brought up, is how our nervous system has been kind of educated to perceive the world. And that's why we keep recreating the same circumstances in our lives, even, 30 years later when we're no longer our children. And so we can gently, you know, be an inquiry around, how does my life feel like to me? What does it feel like to wake up? And how would I want to feel when I wake up? And sometimes we have short nights like you did yesterday. I did the night before. And it's okay. Like that's why it's so beautiful that the body is very resilient. It will adapt to the different stages and seasons of life and, habits that last for a shorter time and other habits that we have for a longer time. But that's kind of what I think that these practices are good for. They can help us be an inquiry around how we would want to feel, what we would want to cultivate
Yeah.
long term
That's
in the
that's
daily.
that's why I that's why I do these practices. Yeah. I mean, it's so that because I don't know, maybe others have had that experience sometimes in the afternoon having like an afternoon crash. Coffee can cause that. I don't drink coffee, but sometimes that can cause it or a heavy meal. But I find, just because I start my day very early in the morning by 1, 2 o'clock, it can be easy to not to just feel like a bit mentally exhausted, if not even if I'm not physically exhausted. And but having these little pauses throughout the day, you know, make it so that doesn't happen. And the nice thing is when I'm not mentally exhausted, I make better nutrition choices. It's even just yesterday on the drive, my mom being so kind, she prepared like a feast. She boiled quinoa and a big stew and a whole bunch of cut up veggies and homemade hummus. She made homemade hummus on the morning, and all kinds of different snacks, which is really nice. And if I'm in a depleted, exhausted, mentally exhausted space, it's so easy to just like mindfully snack and eat and then overeat and then not feel so good. But even yesterday, I think all of us, we enjoyed. You guys had some of your Finnish food that you brought and that you got at the bakery. I had my nice healthy snacks, and to be able to pause, seeking to feel good, not just like selfishly, but like we can serve, we can be more present, we can be more kind with our loved ones, which perhaps most important, right? The people who we're with every day, to be kind and present with them. If so, that's why it might feel, maybe that's why I've used terms like self-centered or selfish, like it's felt that way because it's like I'm doing my workout or doing my yoga or whatever it is. But it's yes to feel better, which then leads to being a more kind person and collaborative. This morning when I do my workout, part of it is, my trainer asks these questions like, how will you nourish your body today? How can you be a blessing today? Who will you light up today? And when these questions, I just go on a rant. And I'm like, who can I be a blessing for? The Happy Jack Yoga community, for Hanna, for my mom, for my dad, oh, for this person, that. And, how can I be a blessing? Who can I light up? And I just start going on a rant thinking about it. It's just like, again, it's this emotional flood. And this is what I'm thinking about and feeling as I'm doing bicep curls, before I go to do that. So there's this idea in neuroscience, what fires together, wires together. And so if we're working out or training or doing yoga or any activity, and we're thinking, oh man, this sucks, or how much more, oh, when is this over? That's we're essentially associating pain and not wanting to do the thing. But if we choose these other affirmations, incantations, you know, it really makes a difference, and it shows up. Then it just makes it. I don't know. I think we're all over the place, but just these practices of gratitude, of intention, like really bringing intention, whether it's to our physical training, whether it's to spending time with loved ones. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, we're all over the place, but we're all on the same team.
Yeah, we're all on the same team.
Kind of like Ram Dass said that we're walking each other home.
Yeah,
Is that what he said?
he did. We're all just holding hands, walking each other home.
Mm.
I feel that. It's like just there's all these signs from the universe. Like, oh my goodness, I don't know. I'm not even going to get into all
Well,
now.
tell us a sign.
Well, just I mean, yesterday at the at the um at the Finnish musical experience, after this little old, like old, I don't know, like well in the 80s or 90s, I don't know. Lady comes up to me after, and she like smile. I'm got this nice little connection, and she's like, you've got a really bad neck." And I'm like, whoa. And I guess because like I was sitting in the front row, and I
Uh,
was like moving my head back and forth, because I mean we'd just been in the car for 4 hours, and then we get there and we sit for another 2.5 hours, and so I was just trying to move my body. And but she said this thing, and I'm like, I know I don't have an injury. I'm not worried. But then I noted, then today in my yoga practice, I noticed, like during sun salutations, I pause in every up dog, and I do this neck thing. I do it side to side. I look to the right. I look to the left, and I'm doing it a lot. And now I'm like so mindful. And I went outside to get fresh air right before this podcast, and I'm doing this neck thing back and forth. And so not that I'm buying into her assessment that I have issues with my neck, but it's just, I don't know, just it kind of brings presence and brings awareness. And I don't know, I find these little nudges, these little winks from divinity, whether it's a reminder we're on the right path, whether it's a reminder to steer, get back on path. This is, as you say, we're walking each other home.
we are. And that's so beautiful.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank
Well,
you.
yeah, thank you, Hanna. Thank you, all the beautiful souls. Eula, Francis, Tilak, Sarah and George. We got Rita, Patricia, Zalinda, Diane. Thank you for being here with us. Everybody listening. Spotify. I just gotta say quick. I mean, there's people out there, like our friends Premananda, Prabhu, and Nitya Leela in the what's it called, the Boston area. And then it's so cool, just like when we get messages from people that are listening to the podcast. We don't see them every day, but they're out there. And so we appreciate you. We're sending our love and wishing you all an amazing rest of the day. And back here next week. Namaste.
Namaste.